So hello and welcome to another edition of Timetable London, the podcast crafted by lovers of London for lovers of London. I'm Tam MacDonald, and with me, as usual, my knowledgeable co-host, champion archivist and heavyweight raconteur, Jeff Browell. Hello, Jeff.
Thank you, Tam. Thank you. We're in a wonderful pub today.
We certainly are.
I'm being looked upon by W.G Grace.
All right. Well,
I know you knew him personally, but, you know.
There's always a gag like that in there somewhere. At least it's W.G Grace and not Maimonides.
And what did that stand for, W.G.? What was that?
William Gilbert.
William Gilbert. Oh, thank you,
Okay,
Chris.
so hold all of that for a second.
Okay, yeah.
So Jeff and I are happily settled in this pub, just that area north of Oxford Street for our listeners. It's famed for the landowners, the Fitzrovia family, Dukes of Grafton, haunt of such literary giants as Virginia Woolf, George Orwell and Dylan Thomas. Whether we shall rise to such cultural heights remains to be seen, but we're going to be wind assisted in this regard by today's guest, who's written for just about every paper in town, or every paper that matters, or every paper that matters and is good.
And some that don't.
and maybe, yeah.
And some that don't and some that aren't. But I don't know about wind assisted. That might be a reflection on lunch. But here I am.
Which you haven't had,
I'm
fellow.
having a liquid lunch of cider.
Well, there we go.
We are here in a Sam Smith's pub. And this is just around the corner from the Observer's new home, which is one of my many papers, having worked for the Times for 24 years and still do a bit for them. And now the Observer and the Spectator and the Critic and Church Times and whoever will pay me.
Imagine my surprise to open my Sunday Observer in bed on Sunday as I do and notice a little Patrick kid down in the corner
I'm
there.
sorry to have ruined your Sunday morning, but as someone said to me, it's very difficult to know how to avoid me. But
Right, well, at least they've got the I won't say the balls because it'll be cut out, but at least they got the courage to say that to your face.
well, exactly.
So anyway, the star feature of this pub is the magnificent set of stained glass windows we'll be talking about, looking for all the world as if they are genuine, but actually are the work of Anne Sotheran, who were installed in 1989. Many of them showing a Victorian-era celebrity or sporting champion. That's, I guess, the celebrity explains the British Empire one, and the sporting champion is just about everybody else. Anyway, I noticed star among them is W.G. Grace, aforementioned. And I'm just wondering, since I believe that this venue chosen today by you, maybe?
It was.
Because of him?
Well, it was partly chosen, I said, because I've been popping in here since I've been working at the Observer, and I like to find a pub. I like Sam Smith's pubs as well. When I first moved to London, one of my go-tos was the Chandos on the bottom of St Martin's Lane. And also I lived in Wapping when I first came to London, and there is a pub called the Captain Kidd. And I like to think that that's a relative. He may have been a relative, in fact. This is the Pirate. He was from Dundee, which is where my father's family were from originally. So I'd like to think that perhaps we are, but he only had daughters, so we wouldn't be a direct blood descendant. And then I discovered this, and the thing I like about Smith's pubs is, apart from the ale, the dark wood and the sense of history. Even, as you say, these stained glass were in from the 80s. And so, yeah, W.G. Grace and all sorts of sportsmen. Captain Matthew Webb behind us. I can talk you through them if you want. Or I'll let someone else speak.
Well, we'll certainly get to that.
Who's the chap that's next to a Webb then? He looks like a...
Edward Whymper.
He's the first chap to have ascended...
the Matterhorn. He climbed the Matterhorn in 1840.
Wow. So he's a mountain climber.
Yes.
Amazing, looking like that.
I know, and he's got one of those little knapsacks.
Yeah.
It's just like an episode of Heidi, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Patrick Kidd, very good to have you with us.
It's lovely to be here.
Whether or not the provenance extends back to any other kid of that name, no doubt our listeners will flood us in their thousands, putting us right as to the yes or the no. But you've just cycled here, which is explaining your rather flushed demeanour from the British Library. Do you cycle everywhere?
I've resumed cycling. When I first moved to London, I was working after university. I had a job as an MP's researcher, and I was paid extremely badly, and so I couldn't afford to go by tube. So I used to cycle everywhere, and it's a great way to get around London, is cycling. And then I stopped, and when the Boris bikes, as we still call them, whatever they are, Santander, if you could do advertising, I used to use them, then I stopped, and I've recently resumed, and actually I'm finding it's a great way to get around, except, as I just discovered, every one-way street in London is against the way you want to go, it seems.
Yes,
So I think I had to do about 15 streets to do the 3 I needed to get it. But,
Yeah.
But cyclists don't take any notice of one-way streets anyway, do
well,
they?
I do, and it really annoys me when people don't.
Yeah.
But,
Well, they don't take notice of red lights anymore,
No.
or anything else.
Pedestrian crossings.
No.
No.
That's what
Slow
sniper
moving.
rifles were invented for. So what were you researching at the British Library?
There's a new exhibition opening on Friday on secret maps.
Oh.
And I'm writing a
Captain
review.
Kidd's map, in fact.
Well, yes, there is. You've been to it as well, have you?
No, I've not seen it. I'm just
But
guessing.
it's not a map. There is something about Captain Kidd in there, though, because there's a letter after he was arrested in which he, as a plea bargain, he says he'll tell them where he hid his Spanish treasure. And he said, I'll draw a map for you if it helps. Sort of like Robert Louis Stevenson, X marks the spot. So I did clock the family letter there. But it's got all sorts of fascinating things, the plans for D-Day landings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's got things from the East India Company dividing up the world and stuff going right back. For instance, there's the map of the coast of Holland that was drawn to help Henry VIII's ambassadors when they were going to go and negotiate about Anne of Cleves coming over his fourth wife, I think.
Fourth.
And do the quick divorce to be beheaded. So there's lots of
Well,
fascinating
everyone
stuff.
likes a good map, don't they?
I do books. I've just been
Yeah.
reading The Hobbits to my 8-year-old son, and I love turning back to the
wow.
map of Middle-earth. And
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful, that. I mean, probably the best map that we had when I was in the archive was the green line map of Cyprus.
Oh, yes.
And what made it good?
Because that's where the phrase green line comes from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's because they were looking for a marker pen, and they
didn't
came
have a
across.
red
They
one to
didn't have a
hand.
red one, and they had a green one, and that demarcated the Turkish and the Cypriot bits. And Bob's your uncle.
Right. I never knew that Bob was your uncle. That's quite a story.
There,
Green line.
there isn't the green line map, but there is the partition of India map that's in this
That's
exhibition.
what I would have associated
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have Ismay's collection in the archive that I was associated with for many years. So it's some real fantastic, terrible material to do with the massacres and the partition. So it's really quite a troublesome episode in our history. But oh yes, you never know. And whenever I find a map in an attic or somewhere like that, my eyes open wide. I know that I've hit the jackpot because people love maps.
You can spend ages looking at them.
Have they
There's
got
also a hastily drawn one by T.E. Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh yeah.
Outlining, this is in 1917, where he'd seen the various encampments he was going to attack. And there's a lovely footnote, because he's clearly done it in haste and he's not much of an artist, because he puts as a footnote, please note the trees are not really a mile high.
Yes, he was renowned for his sense of humour, wasn't he?
So there's lots in this exhibition. How
Has
I'm
it
going
got
to
the
get into
Sykes-Picot one?
it hasn't, but that's most the line in the sand
that-
from which all the
absolutely.
trouble came.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, and is it the Darrant line with Afghanistan? And
Oh, yeah.
yeah. No, being an archive of colonial era, we have a lot of that sort of material in there.
Yes.
Oh, so that's good. So you weren't doing research there. Well, I find the British Library is a difficult place to do research, but since they invited in sixth form pupils from schools to work in there, it's not how it used to be.
Is it noisy? Is there not a librarian saying shush very
No,
loud?
they don't have that. No, they had terrible problems with the toilets at one time. Oh God. Sure, you're going to cut this out, aren't you?
Well, I don't know.
No, they had a
We'll see
terrible
where-
problem
see where
with
it
ladies
goes.
of the night that were coming in to the British Library and using the toilet. And then people will be leaving they'll be ordering their documents on their ordering slips and going out and ordering something else.
Golly, I'm not sure there's any other word you could say to that.
Did you
I
know
don't
that was
know.
going on, Patrick, when you were there?
Well, I mean,
I'm
King's Cross used to have a
shocked to discover.
King's Cross used to have a reputation, but
Well,
you
it
know
did,
the area's
yes.
been tarted up
Yes.
or tarted down. But it's
Well, I prefer the old round reading room because there used to be a
Yeah, I
doyen
remember
of
that.
and
in the British Museum.
yeah, and that was wonderful. Going in there in the evening, and the evening light was shining in through the lights above. Oh, absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, I remember that.
So I was up there looking at this exhibition, and I've got to write my review later. But I was also writing an obituary just in a coffee shop, because one of the jobs I now have is I write the Observer's. They just have one obituary a week.
Yeah.
And because it's a weekly paper, you do it from scratch. A lot of dailies have stuff on the stocks for
So is that aspect of your gig that's been going for some while? The one I saw on Sunday was not your
Yeah,
only one.
I did have... No, you saw my obituary on Sunday. No,
On
no,
the
I've been...
Sherpa.
I've been
Not
yes,
your
the Sherpa,
obituary.
exactly.
That was
Right, my
Very
own.
prescient of you, Patrick.
Yes, I mean, it would have been flattering. Anyway, no, I've been doing that since, April. But yes, so this week was the last man surviving from the Edmund Hillary Sherpa Tenzing conquest of Everest. Oh, wow. And this he was a Sherpa himself, lived into his 90s. He'd been a very young member of the expedition. But the Sherpas climbed Everest without oxygen. Yeah. We're looking here. Sherpa. You're mentioning about Edward Whymper, who was sitting underneath, the conqueror of the Matterhorn.
His face looks exactly the same as Webb and exactly the same as W.G. Grace and exactly the same as Chandos.
They must all be related.
They're decals, Jeff.
Yes, yeah.
But yes, so in those days, well, certainly in Whymper's time, you would climb mountains without oxygen.
Yeah.
Just with a hip flask or something.
You need oxygen.
But so the Sherpas with the Sherpai with Everest, their job was to go ahead and carry the oxygen to the next camp for the British and the New Zealanders, in the case of Hillary, to carry on.
Yeah. I knew a Sherpa once. I asked him, he'd been up Everest 6 times. And I said, what was it? And he said it was boring. Absolutely boring. And then he launched into a tirade. So this was in the Scottish-English border. So he runs a Himalayan garden there. He's still going strong. He was recruited. And it's the most wonderful, delightful garden because there are all the Tibetan wheels and things and the sounds of bells.
It's on the Scottish border.
It's, yes. Yeah.
Lord.
And...
producing sounds not generally heard in the Scottish borders.
Exactly, yeah. But he said he much preferred it there, not least because he didn't have to take very selfish Western people up Everest. So he launched into a tirade how they were really risking their lives needlessly for a lump of rock.
Do you know how many...
Risking their lives.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people have climbed Everest, roughly?
Well, I know hundreds of people have died on it. Oh, I don't know, 10,000?
What do you reckon, Tam?
I wouldn't have a clue.
Chris, you should know because you're an expert on trivia.
Yeah, yes, but not on. Not on
If this was
Everest.
a bonus round question in a pub quiz, what would
Absolutely,
your guess be?
which I would ask Mark probably.
Well, you got 10,000. It's at the end of the last climbing season, so I don't know how many this year. It was just over 12,000.
In 1 year?
No, in total. In total.
Right.
So since Hillary in 50,
12,000 who
got to the top, and came back down. And the reason I say that is because we are sitting under, as well as Whymper, we are sitting under the stained glass of Captain Matthew Webb, whose sporting claim to fame, 150 years ago this summer, in August, he was the first man to swim the Channel, unaided.
Oh, yeah.
150 years.
So 1875, and again, at the end of last season, because I've got this from I've written a review of a new book, 2,600 has swam the Channel. Wow. So 2,600 on that, 12,000 have climbed Everest. Mm-hmm. And Webb's story is fascinating. He trained in the Thames estuary, swimming between Blackwall on the Isle of Dogs and Gravesend, and then finally he took it on. Well, the first time he tried, he swam for 7 hours and then gave up. His quote was, "There's too much sea." So he decided to try again. And he swam, when he did the crossing, it was 21 hours. But he got within 2 miles of the coast, and then the tides and exhaustion started pulling him out. And so they gave him some brandy, because in those days sportsmen all had brandy to get through things.
Oh, alchemists do as well.
And his support boat, his support boat sang Rule Britannia to him until he got ashore. And in fact, so he became a hero. He was fed. There were the banquets in his honour. He got a lot of money. He got about £300,000 in donations. But then tragically, he ran out of things to do and money, and decided he would swim across Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
And he was sucked underneath and found 8 miles downstream with a massive hole in the side of his head.
Oh no! So he's a real. How many celebrities can you name who have drowned?
Ooh. Well, apart from sportsmen.
W.S. Gilbert.
Yes.
Oh yes, he did trying to save someone.
Well, he
didn't
had a heart attack. Well, he tried to save 2 young teenage girls.
How gallant.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yes. Not save them in the Gladstone way.
No. And it was at Grimsdyke House, which was his house, which is up in Harrow. And that's a wonderful place because it dates back to Iron Age times. Very, very atmospheric. There are no birds that sing in the woodland there where he died. It's
Not even a titwillow.
No, nothing. Not even a
That would have been ironic. Just to add one last thing on Webb with his death, when he died, the Times, and it's really poignant, this line, they said, imagine what it must be like to be a 9-day wonder waking up on the 10th day. And that's why he did it. He just felt he'd stopped being relevant. He'd had his fame and he wanted another challenge.
It's a drug, isn't it? Yeah.
And Everest, George Mallory said, because it's there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you think makes a good obituary, though? Now, I used to love Daily Telegraph obituaries, which were surely the epitome, because they always used to describe a certain type of retired military man. And it would be a military man who'd, I don't know, scaled some fort with only one arm and one eye, and then went on to found a pencil factory in Macedonia or somewhere.
That was Hugh Massingberd, wasn't it? He sort of invented the modern obituary, didn't he?
Well, you want a good story, don't you?
You do.
You don't just want a list of accomplishments and they did 40 years of extremely competent but fairly dull accountancy or something, not to be rude about accountants.
Or with resonances far beyond that person's life, such as this most recent one you were describing earlier of the Holocaust survivor.
Exactly. So I've just kept, after seeing this I keep on confusing exhibition and expedition. That's why I needed to tackle the British Library. Yeah, I needed to tackle the British Library in oxygen, so maybe that's why. I sat down and finished writing an obit that I started yesterday for this coming week's Observer, on a woman called Dieter Kraus, who's died at 96. She was a Holocaust survivor. She was in Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen and a camp near Hamburg. But she became famous, not that she would have wanted it, for running a library in Auschwitz. She was 14 when she arrived, and they had a sort of children's daycare centre there. There was a young man called Ferdy Hirsch who persuaded the camp commander that rather than having the children getting under everyone's feet while they were working, they should have their incentive. And this was quite cunning of him, so they could educate and give them some sense of hope. And he had these other teenagers helping him. He was in his 20s, and she was 14, this woman, Dieter. And they had 12 books that had come in with the luggage from the people deported to Auschwitz, and they were passed around. She was the librarian. And they also narrated stories from their memories, like Robinson Crusoe or whatever. Yeah. But basically, they were there to keep up spirits. And she obviously escaped there, went to Bergen-Belsen, was liberated from there. And then years later, a Spanish journalist heard her story and wrote a novel about it called The Librarian of Auschwitz.
Oh, wasn't it made into a film?
It sounds like there's a film in it, certainly. I haven't seen it. But she felt he'd taken a novelist's liberty with some of the plots. And so she was then, at the age of 90, wrote her own telling of it. And it is fascinating.
Where did she live?
Well, she spent, after the war, she moved to Israel. So her father died 6 weeks after going to Auschwitz. Her mother survived that and went with her to Bergen-Belsen, was liberated but died just after the liberation, as many did.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, actually, you think that's the end of the war, and it wasn't. She had typhus. So at 16, this girl Dieter was an orphan, and she went back to Prague, and while she was in the queue for an ID card, she bumped into a man called Otto Kraus, who she'd recognised from this children's block in Auschwitz but never spoken to. He'd also escaped, and he married and moved to Israel from 1949. Well, yes, except that they had 3 children and 2 died, and there's just a really poignant quote when she says, I don't feel I've had a sustained period of happiness in my life. It's not very cheery. But I found a lovely quote. One thing I like about obituaries is reading all the previous interviews, features and stuff. And someone asked her, if you could have your life again, what would you do? And she said, I think I'd like to work in a museum putting bits of broken pottery back together, because I think putting things back together is one of the most important things you can do. That's my final line.
That's lovely.
I'll just strike a chord with you, Jack.
What, broken pottery? There is
putting things together.
There is that Japanese thing, isn't there, where they put broken pottery together but make it very crudely. But
Yes.
it's an art form in its own right, isn't it? What's it called? Your wife's
we'll look it up
Japanese,
later.
so
Exactly. We'll look at, she does pottery, but she does it from whole pieces rather than broken pieces.
In my student days, I did archaeology, and I spent a lot of time brushing shards of pottery with a toothbrush. Someone would put it back together eventually.
We need to find a way of making archaeology a bit more interesting than the shards of pottery.
Yeah, that's an image that endures, isn't it? Because everybody mentions that whenever I talk about archaeology.
Well, it's the artist's illustrations with the smoke rising from a kind of Anglo-Saxon hut, which I find it's always grey in those pictures.
Yeah.
Why isn't the light shining?
I don't think Indiana Jones correctly reflects what archaeology... You never see Indiana Jones with a trowel, for instance.
No, indeed.
He's never defining the edge of a post hole.
But people often confuse me, though, because when I go to renew my insurance and they have the different options, and you ring up and they ask you what you do for a living, and I say archivist, and they say, "Oh, you're an archaeologist, just like Indiana Jones," and I say, "Yes."
It's it,
Does that get you cheaper car insurance, though? Isn't there the risk of being pursued by Nazis?
Maybe that's the problem, actually.
I had this once coming back through Rome Airport from a dig, and I was wearing steel-toed boots, and they tripped the metal detector. And as happens in Italy, someone came over with a big gun and sort of looked threatening, and I started pointing at my feet, and he said, "What do you do that you need to wear these for?" And I said, "Sono archaeologista," or whatever the Italian is. And he suddenly brightened. He said, come Jurassic Park. I thought, you're Italian, you should surely, Jurassic Park, it shouldn't be the first thing that comes to mind as an archaeologist.
So do you write generally, are there lots of obituaries that are written well in advance? And how do you know... Well,
how do you choose?
Well, first of all, how do you choose? And how do you discreetly interview those people without them cottoning on that they're going to die soon and that they're on the obituary list?
There are certainly cases, I know of colleagues who've been asked to write it about each other's obituary. They're sort of subtly... well, because I do it for the Observer, and that's just one a week, and that is someone who's died that week, they don't have a stockpile.
Yeah.
Whereas the Times, and I did Nicholas Parsons for the Times.
Oh, wonderful, Nicholas Parsons.
Actually, I updated his, because his had been first done in the mid-70s, and then they... But yeah, if there were people you can speak to, I did, for instance, a human rights lawyer recently, and I spoke to his wife and to other people. But it was after he died, so it wasn't getting it around. But my wife works for the BBC, and I remember her saying some years ago they were going through all the stuff they prepared for when the late Queen died.
Yes,
and discovered how many people in the packages they put together were themselves dead by now. You had to go and remove Lord Longford because he was no longer around.
Isn't it Operation London Bridge has fallen or something like that?
That was her. I don't know if the King has his own bridge.
Or was that...
I don't know, what's he?
Millennium Bridge or something.
Millennium Bridge,
Greenwich Foot Tunnel.
Wandsworth.
Oh,
Hammersmith,
Hyde
'cause
Park Corner was one of them,
Hammersmith,
wasn't it?
because there's no road traffic across it now.
But wasn't the Queen Mother's obituary was written in about 1960, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Queen, and she just went on.
So do you think the age of heroes has passed? So reading all these obituaries from days gone by and all the daring do and everything, do you think that era has passed for good?
Oh, we still got Chris's one to go. I mean, he worked with Eamon Andrews. No, Terry Wogan.
Terry Wogan,
Terry
yes.
Wogan.
I was going to say Chris's
Right
obituary.
nationality, right nationality.
Yes.
But I mean, there's got lots of heroes here, Victorian heroes. Do they exist nowadays, this sort of hero? Or do they not exist until they're dead?
Challenges. Well, I suppose we're about to go back into space, so it's been 50 years since we had an astronaut on the moon, for instance.
That's true.
And they're starting, well, a lot of them had died out, but we're about to go back into space. Sportsman, I mean, would Ben Stokes be quite the same as W.G. Grace?
No, there isn't. There's something about that figure. We're looking at a picture now of W.G. Grace lining up with his bat in front of the wicket. The typical pose that one associates with W.G. Grace.
Yeah.
No.
So Ian Botham is getting
Yes,
that
he's
sort of status, isn't he?
Yes, well, there's plenty of, not necessarily stories his family would want repeated about both, but there are plenty. I once met someone who had seen W.G. Grace play.
That wasn't me, Jeff. So just,
So W.G. Grace died in 1915, so this gives you an indication of the age. And this encounter happened in 2009-ish. Because I was a sports writer. I've done many hats, but I was a sports writer for many years and was covering a game at the Oval, and someone said that in the pavilion was Britain's oldest man. I think he became the world's oldest man, a guy called Henry Allingham. He died at 112, and this was a year or so before he died. And they said, we were just speaking to him, and he said he'd saw W.G. Grace play. So I thought, I'll go and have a chat. There might be an interesting story. And Allingham, he was lovely, but, 111 at this stage. And it turned out he was about 5 when he saw W.G. Grace play. But nonetheless, I said, what was he like? And he said, well, he was a big man with a beard. And that was it. And I thought, well, that's eyewitness history, boy. I mean, you just by looking at the stained glass window, you can probably...
Pretty much work that out, yeah.
You did go on and say I was much more interested in the tea that day.
Yes, but it's extraordinary. There's the silver cord, as they would say in Ecclesiastes or whatever it was, that you can actually go back 2 or 3 generations from yourself, people that you've met who've met somebody else, and go back. When was W.G. Grace born? 1848.
Yes.
So essentially, you were sitting with someone who knew somebody who was born in 1848.
Yes. And there are some cases of those 2 generations span an enormous period.
Yeah.
So early this year, the grandson of John Tyler, who'd been one of the very early American presidents, died. And that spanned, 200 years in 3 generations. And there was about 20-odd years ago, a female member of the House of Lords, I never met her, sadly, but her father had been born in 1820, and she lived until the 90s.
1820?
Yeah, so he was someone tenant, and he had her in his 70s, and she lived into her 90s. And suddenly, 2 generations span, basically Waterloo to Maastricht.
Incredible. I mean, there was somebody that was supposed to have lived off the Strand who lived to 250. He was known as the Methuselah of the Strand. Yeah. But I think they may have just got the dates mixed up.
Possibly. Virtually biblical in his achievement.
No, but I think time is accelerated now that we have access to Outlook calendars and so on, because it divides time up into blocks on a calendar and on a sheet in a way that didn't used to be the case.
Yeah.
And so that tends to accelerate time and accelerate our perception of time.
And some people last on their image. Grace is still a brand. You look at that.
He is a brand.
You don't need to know much about cricket to know that's W.G. Grace.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who's the greatest batsman that you've ever seen play?
I've seen Brian Lara and Sachin Tendulkar and Steve Smith and Ben Stokes isn't the greatest, but, a key figure.
Viv Richards?
I met him. I didn't see him play because he'd finished in the mid-90s.
I once walked into a hotel room and Viv Richards was lying on the bed naked, looking at me alluringly.
Exposing his middle stump.
You're kidding.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's a true story. Well, it was in the same hotel that I was punched to the ground by Emlyn Hughes.
What had you said to him?
What was that like?
Yeah. No, he was taking a swing at somebody and he missed him and hit me.
I did once...
I forgot to duck, honey.
I once faced Jeff Thompson, who at one stage was the only man to have bowled at 100 miles an hour, and still hardly anyone has. And this was around the 2009...
When you were batting?
I was batting, yeah. 2009 Ashes. I don't think he was hitting 100 miles an hour by this stage. He was in his 60s, so it's probably only 85.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. It felt fast enough. But the gimmick was I would get an interview with him ahead of the Ashes, and I could face him in the nets for a bit. Yeah. So I put 3 boxes down my trousers as protection. And I walked out and I said to him, try not to hit me. And he looked at me. Well, you can see, even if your listeners can't see, that I am a large gentleman. He looked at me and said, I don't know, mate, there's a lot of you to aim at.
What was it like?
Quick. But I did connect. I connected with one quite early on, and I think that added another 10 miles onto what he was prepared to bowl.
So you play cricket?
I'm a bad cricketer, but occasionally have a game.
That's your favourite sport?
Actually, I think now rugby.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Martin Samuel, chief sports writer of the Times, about a year ago wrote that they'd asked all their sports writers to say what is the best thing you've watched. Because, sports journalists, we're very lucky, we don't just pay for tickets.
Yeah.
So people talked about Olympic 100 metres finals or World Cup finals or whatever. And Samuel said watching his children play sport. And that because my son is now playing for Blackheath under-9s. Blackheath are the oldest rugby club in the world. And I just... great thrill from watching these 9-year-old boys and one girl scamper around. And, it's great fun. Actually, that's the privilege. But, 2012 as a sports writer was brilliant because I covered the Olympics, London Olympics. Yeah. I covered England beating the All Blacks at Twickenham, and I did the Ryder Cup in Medina. I mean, that's a pretty good year.
Yeah. Do you think you've fallen on your feet?
Yeah, well, I didn't have to pay for a ticket for any of that. So.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Gosh.
We're jumping through the stations of the cross here. What's your favourite movie, Patrick?
Yeah. I don't know, probably putting pottery back together again. I think I probably wanted to be Obelix when I was growing up.
Are you from London?
No, well, so I was born in Leytonstone.
Right.
And my parents
David Beckham.
like David Beckham, in the same hospital as David
Lord.
Beckham, at pretty much the same time. We could have been swapped. And like Graham Gooch, who was my boyhood hero, the great
Gooch, yeah.
England captain.
Yeah.
And then
Who's that? Sorry,
Graham Gooch.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And then we lived in Loughton for a bit. My parents got divorced, and we moved to Mersey Island, which is near Colchester.
Wonderful
yes.
place, wild, and it's like the Riddle of the Sands, isn't it, around there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It becomes an island sort of twice a day because there's a road that connects it to the mainland. But when the tide comes in, it becomes a proper
Is that near
island.
Jaywick, Britain's most deprived community?
No, that's round the coast. That's near Clacton.
Right. Because that's the one that featured in the US political broadcast, wasn't it, famously?
What, Jaywick?
Yeah, no, there
That's
was.
'cause-
I can't remember. I think it was the Republicans used it and said, "This is what a Democrat America looks like," and they'd taken the pictures from Jaywick.
Oh, that was-
Well, it's
I
Nigel
see.
Farage's seat.
Yeah.
It's part of Clacton.
Wow.
No, to get from Mersey to Clacton, you had to go a long way round. But I grew up in Mersey, but I would come up to London as a treat. To the theatre, or I remember Dad once took me all the way to Twickenham. The first game I went to at Twickenham was to see England-Ireland when I was 7, and we didn't have a ticket. And he just said, "It's all right, we'll get one from a scalp, a tout." And he did. He got one from a tout. And he just put me under his arm and walked through the gate and said, "He can sit on my lap." And I did. So,
Those are the days.
So in preparation for becoming a sports writer, the first time I went to Twickenham, I didn't have a ticket.
Never paid since.
Never paid since.
Who won?
England won. It was a year when both sides were pretty bad. What sticks in the memory was that England's fullback was called Dusty Hare.
Oh, I'm
It's
Dusty
a
Hare,
wonderful
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
And it was also, I only learnt this later, it was the debut of Rory Underwood, who went on
really?
to was then England's record try scorer.
Yeah, I used to work next to Twickenham rugby ground, so I used to hear the shouting and the roar of this saying. But I used to work in the Royal Military School of Music, Kneller Hall.
Kneller Hall.
Yeah, cleaning out pig bins. Because a corporal would come around who was very, very officious and use his swagger cane to point to bits that I'd missed. They don't have pig bins anymore because they
It's
had...
a pig bin.
Oh, before BSE, you put all your scraps in these giant metal containers and somebody would come along and take away the slop, which would be this sort of yellowy slop with all the food, and it would be fed to pigs. But they stopped all that because after BSC they didn't want animals to be eating each other as well, to be cannibals, basically.
Oh, gosh, how fascinating.
Yeah, but I was never over the barrier. I was just a peasant on the other side, listening to the roar of the crowd.
You were the hoi polloi for whom the frosted glass was invented.
Yeah. So, no, I remember I used to go to Lord's quite a bit, and I was there when Botham became the highest wicket taker. I think it was Lord's, somewhere like that. Or he did something. And the roar from the crowd, and then I ran into the middle and with the wicket and everything at the end of the test. It was quite extraordinary. He was a real character. Is a real character.
Yeah, it's astonishing when you look at some of those records from the past when we were younger, how far they've been surpassed. So 373-ish, 375, when Jimmy Anderson has gone well past.
I know, but they play cricket 7 days a week, 365 days a year, in the middle of the night now. I don't think we're not comparing like with like, are we?
I do remember in the mid-90s when Mike Atherton, now the Times is quick, has gone honoured, went past Botham's tally of test runs, which I think at that stage was in the top 10, 5,200. And the camera picked up Botham in the crowd with his middle finger extended. And Richie Benno wonderfully, swiftly said, "Botham just showing that Atherton's gone past him by 1 run."
Did you ever meet Dickie Bird?
Yes, I met him as a child, actually, because I used to go to the Colchester Festival, back in the days when you had outgrounds. So Colchester Castle Park, and went and got his autograph. And
You didn't go to his funeral, did you?
No, sadly, what a great character he was. And I didn't do his obituary. But yes, sport was a big love. And also the theatre. So my mother would bring me up to London quite regularly to go to the theatre. First time I saw the Pirates of Penzance, you mentioned W.S. Gilbert, big lover of Gilbert and Sullivan. Yeah. And I saw Pirates of Penzance when I was about 6. And it was a great cast. There was George Cole was the Major General. Tim Curry was the Pirate King. Michael Praed, who would become massive with Robin of Sherwood, was Frederick. Bonnie Langford. There were a lot of... It was a good cast. Chris Langham was in there as the Chief of Police. I mean, I didn't know who any of these people were then. It's only because I got the record.
Yeah.
And then my grandmother used to send me the lyrics to Gilbert and Sullivan songs.
Did you learn all the
I did.
songs?
And that's another reason why I've chosen this pub, because, not deliberately actually, but just around the corner from here in Fitzrovia, there used to be a theatre called the Scala. It's been demolished just a long time now. But my grandmother's mother ran a theatre company, an amateur theatre company in Chingford, and they would take the Scala for a run, and they would put on musicals. Yeah. And my grandfather was the director, and my grandmother was the leading lady, and her sister was the second leading lady, and her brother-in-law would design the sets. And I found the because I went into the archives and found the programme showing my mum and my aunt, careful how I phrase this, as call girls. I don't. Their job as teenagers.
Girls.
No. As teenagers would be to go and knock on the door and say 5 minutes, Mr. So and So.
Is that all?
And then finally I found a review of my mother when she was 18 and could finally appear in it. So that was the family background, was a theatre just round the corner.
Do you think you might end up on stage yourself? Oh. Maybe another career?
Have you got a good baritone voice?
I've got a bad baritone voice. I suddenly, I like to sing, but I can't really. I used to sing in the Times Choir.
The Times as a choir?
It used to. When we were based in Wapping, it was called Wapping Great Voices. And we sang in the Church of St George on the East. And I asked the music teacher for some lessons once, and we did a bit. And then he paused and he said, "The good thing about you is you know when you've hit the wrong note. I can tell that by the number of times I see you wincing." He said, "You would be amazed how many people don't have a clue they've hit the wrong note."
Yeah, that's painful.
I can't sing at all. No, I just won't go there. I
But
can't
would you
sing
like
and I
to?
can't dance. Well, given the option of being a world-class singer, yes, but I don't want to spend 25 years because I haven't got that much time
You could
left.
be a
I've got
pantomime
25
horse.
years left. I could be the pantomime horse, that's true, the back bit.
Tammy, are you a performer? Are you a...
No, I've got relatives who are, but that passed me by, not even into musical instruments.
Right.
But certainly love my history, and I'm noting the various channels of interest that extend through the tendrils of your London hinterland. You're talking about theatre and cricket and sports, writing for the papers and so on. You found yourself many ways in which you can love London.
Yeah, I do love London, and I've lived here since university, so that's, nearly 30 years. And I first moved to Wapping, and then to Greenwich. I've sort of stayed out east, so I lived in Greenwich for a bit, and we now live in Eltham, which is where W.G Grace died. About a mile or so from where we now live, because he was originally from Bristol. Looking again at the stained glass, there's a cathedral in the background. I should be able to identify cathedrals, but it may just be a stock one, but that could be Bristol Cathedral. But anyway, he then moved to London late in life, and he died in 1915 in Eltham, and the story was shaking his fists at shaking his fists at the German bombers.
Oh, God.
At the Zeppelins, as they came out.
Because you live in Blackheath now, don't you? Which is very sporting.
Well, I live in Eltham, but I have a connection. So we did live in Blackheath.
Oh, right.
And then we had children and got priced out of Blackheath. But I still have a connection because I am church warden of the church that's on the Heath, All Saints Church. And you're right, it is a sporting mecca. Blackheath Rugby Club, Blackheath Football Club, to be technical, because it's so old it wasn't even a rugby club. It was a founder member of both the RFU and the FA. That dates from 1858, and the church dates from 1858. And they were about 200 yards apart on the Heath, the pub where the rugby club was founded and the church. I like to think that there was some link. That's the oldest club in the world, but also the oldest, or the first golf club in England was on Blackheath. And they only had room for 7 holes.
In England, not
Scotland. Yeah. But the first one down south, and they had 7 holes on the Heath, and I found a lovely Victorian description of the hazards, the special hazards of playing at Blackheath, which included nursery maids, children, tramps, and gravel pits. And what happened is that Royal Blackheath Golf Club moved to Eltham in 1922. Blackheath Rugby Club, Blackheath Football Club, moved to Eltham in 2014. And so they both come to join me.
All priced out of
They got
Blackheath.
priced out of Blackheath.
Because Guy's Hospital Rugby Club is one of the oldest. That's the second or the third oldest.
Well, we're the oldest open club.
Right.
So you're right. You're absolutely right. They're a little older because they're tied to Guy's Hospital.
Yeah.
And things like Edinburgh Academicals and
Yeah.
So universities but we're the oldest that was founded as an open club that anyone could join.
So they could bring in ringers.
right from the dawn of the... And, in the early days, you would have a lot of the England team would come out of it. But we're just very excited. I don't know if you follow rugby much, but there's this new superstar called Noah Kalori, he's 19. He scored 5 tries for Saracens on Saturday, and he's just been called up by Steve Borthwick for the England squad. He played for Blackheath as a mini. And this is like, he obviously didn't play for our senior side because he was poached as a teenager to go to Saracens. But, so we could have an England player.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you still connected to the rugby club?
Oh, I go every week, yeah.
Oh, really?
And so our last home game, Mickey Skinner, do you remember him? Played for England in the 90s.
A real wild man.
Yeah, big mullet. Skinner, as we often see him there, he played for England and Blackheath. He was our last person to play for the country at the same time as playing for Blackheath.
Hi, this is Tam MacDonald, your host. If you're enjoying Timetable London, then please tell your friends about us by sending them a link to the show, giving us a mention on social media, or even especially by, chatting about us in the pub. Timetable London, for everything you love about the world's greatest city.
My sport is real tennis. Which I've been playing for 30 years.
Where do you play that?
I play at Lords.
Thank you.
But there are a few courts, as this is about London. So I play at Hampton Court as well as Lords.
That's the famous one, isn't it?
That was built in 1530. There's 2 courts at Queen's and Lords. Is that it for London? There's one at Middlesex University, bizarrely, called the Burrows. And that was just an enthusiast who wanted to build a court. And then you've got some around London, like Hatfield House and things like that.
So do you become a member of the Real Tennis Club or something? You can then play anywhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a member at Lords for cricket purposes. But what I loved, I took my son, is 8, to Lords to see a test match last year, and he quite liked it. But during the lunch interval, we went to watch the real tennis. And then this year, I got him tickets for a 2020 match, and I said to him, we're going to go to Lords tomorrow. And he said, to watch tennis? I said, no, they play cricket at Lords as well. So look, London has wonderful quirkiness everywhere you look, doesn't it?
Certainly does.
I remember talking to Roddy Bloomfield. Do you know Roddy?
I know the name, but the publisher.
He's probably the foremost publisher of sports books that there has been. He's published about 700, and he's known them all, Muhammad Ali and all the people. He's a very close friend of Michael Parkinson. And he told me the story about Fred Perry. So how Fred Perry came to play tennis. Because Fred Perry was one of his autobiographies.
Was that the one of the guy walking down the street and hearing the giggles through the hedge?
It was the Queen's Club, and he was walking to go to another job.
Yeah.
And he heard all this giggling of young gals.
Oh, that's right.
And looked through a hole in the hedge, and there were these young kind of 30s sort of girls, 20s, flapper types. And they were playing tennis and had a silver platter with a flunky with glasses of champagne, and he thought, I want to have myself some of that. And he did, and within just 2 or 3 years, he was a champion.
Yeah, well, that's the way it happens, right?
Give it a go. Yes.
Are you a golfer?
Very bad. My father was a professional golfer and still in his 70s plays off sort of 5 or 6 handicap, but I'm not very good. He had one of those careers that peaked and then went downhill thereafter. His very first round as a tour professional in 1969, I think, when he was 18. He had a round of 66, and it made the times. We got the cutting. And it was all kidly, sort of Surrey schoolboy or whatever, and it was all downhill from there. But from that first round, we can see the scorecard that has him ahead of some future Ryder Cup players, like Peter Oosterhuis.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, no, Dad, by the age of 30, he'd given up being a professional sportsman.
Well, he's very good at putting on the seaside, you know. But that's the limit.
Pure, the pure version of the game.
Yeah. Or pitch and putt. It's still got very competitive.
I can see that you would be very competitive. I can just see you being competitive at pitch and putt.
Yeah.
Or indeed anything.
I was never very good at sport at school. I was very good at sprinting. You wouldn't think so looking at me now, but I was actually quite good at that. But that was the limit of it. And never very good at sort of team sports until I took up cricket and played with friends, and that was a bit better. And then it was one-on-one, badminton and sports like that I really enjoyed.
Squash?
I did play some squash, but very intense, and my heart couldn't survive it.
Well, you'll have to give real tennis a go. That's much more sedate.
Yeah, so why is real tennis preferable to
I find it fascinating. I mean, things like the roofs and the targets and the fact that the ball is much harder than the lawn tennis ball and the racket is wood. But I think I fell for it, first of all, because I walked in my first week at university to the court there, and the head pro at Cambridge at the time was famously alcoholic. And there were 2 open bottles of wine and a cheese board behind the court, and I thought, well, this is my sort of sport. Yes, he is long dead, by the way, so we can call someone now. But I find it gripping. I've recently cracked the world's top 10,000. You are in the present. I mean, I should have my own stained glass.
You should have your own window. Yes.
So you can put your results in and they chart it. Yeah, exactly. You can touch me if you want.
So you've said that before.
So you can see your world ranking if you like. But conversely, some years ago I played against a then girl called Claire Vigrass, is now Claire Fay, and she is possibly the best women's player there's ever been. She's been the world champion now for about 15 years. And I played her when she was 12, and she beat me 6-love.
Yes.
And I like to think that was a good sign of how good she was, rather than the fact I couldn't beat a 12-year-old girl. But she has at least gone on to be great. So
Yeah.
Do you find that you have an eye for detail that has served you well being a diary writer?
I think I enjoy people. So you're right. So I did the Times Diary for 12 years, which was longer than anyone had ever done it. And I made it very clear when I was asked if I wanted to take it on that I didn't want to write a society column or a celebrity column or gossip column. I wanted basically to cheer people up. That was my role. And often by cheering people up, it's getting together in a pub and saying who's got a good story.
There you go.
And if it's true, that's good. But sometimes stories were good enough not to be, or that you wouldn't check them too much. And sometimes they're downright not true, but they were good enough.
As long as they can't be disproved.
As long as you can't be sued.
Exactly, can't be sued.
So there was a thing recently, Robert Jenrick, the very ambitious Tory frontbencher, was talking about going around Wolverhampton and not seeing another white face, and people were comparing him to Enoch Powell. And of course, the mention of Enoch Powell, I thought, that reminds me of. So a friend of mine, Jerry Hayes, former Tory MP, was on the West Wing.
Member of the Savile Club.
Yeah.
With the red specs.
Jerry told me once that he, in the 80s, found himself on a train on the way to Oxford with Enoch Powell. By this stage, Enoch Powell was a MP for South Down. He'd become an Ulster Unionist. And they arrived in Oxford, and there was a welcoming committee of students shouting rude things and waving placards and all that. And Jerry sympathised and said, this must be awful that everywhere you go, ever since the Rivers of Blood, you get this sort of reaction. And Enoch Powell said, but listen, Jerry, if you listen carefully, they are saying, F off Tory scum. I think it's you they want to go.
And if you can't cheer them up, write an obit.
Well, obits are there to cheer people up as well. I recently wrote Jilly Cooper's obituary, and the request came back from the Observer saying the editor has said, could you not only do Jilly Cooper, but could you write it in Jilly Cooper's style? It was such fun. I was able to write fruity jokes. I really enjoyed doing that.
Did you ever meet her?
I don't think so. No, I regret it. I've been loving watching Rivals. Have you seen the new TV series?
No, no of it, no.
It's great fun.
No, it's, I suppose looking around the pub now, which of these characters would you have liked to have written an obituary for, apart from W.G. Grace? He doesn't count. We've got Florence Nightingale. I didn't realise she was an international sportswoman, but there you are.
She had a wonderful backhand.
Yeah.
First woman to get Order of Merit.
Oh, was she? Okay. We have Bob Fitzsimmons next to her, who was the lightest ever world heavyweight champion, and was the great undisputed champion of his day. Captain Bertie Dwyer, I'm not sure what he did. He was president of the St Bart's Wargaming Club? No, can't be. A winner of several trophies. I can't remember. See what he did.
Chris is just going over to have a look at the window.
And then we have this one here, the Earl of Mayo, who invented condiments to go with chips. He was called Richard Bourke, and it says he was viceroy, one of the best loved of the rulers of British India. I don't know whether that is
because they were all beloved. Weren't
I was going to say, is that best loved by people back in white or best loved by the local Indians?
Yes, exactly.
Well, it does look like Taj Mahal or something behind, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He was the first president of the Tobogganing Club.
Tobogganing, that's why it looks like wargaming from here.
And old Tom Morris is there, the golfer.
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, thank you to everybody for your time today. This has been fantastic. Anecdotal and witty, and I very much hope we can stay in touch.
Please do. I enjoyed it very much.
I do want to forestall any notion from the conspiracy theorists that the only reason why we've got this guy on our podcast is that we're hoping for a favourable obit when it comes to what the Observer says about us. We don't want to get into your good graces. We actually do like you.
Well, as long as you don't all die in the same week, because there's only one, you see, then I'll have to choose.
Well, it won't be me, will it? I mean, come on. It'll be you, Chris.
His met Wogan.
Well, this is true, yeah.
Terry Wogan once.
Yeah.
And I'm a member of the PG Woodhouse Society. Every 2 years they have an annual dinner. I've just had the latest one 2 weeks ago. And Wogan was the president until he died, then he had to stop. And I remember the speech he gave
Couldn't
there.
carry on
once.
afterwards.
There was a lovely anecdote in his speech, which I then put into the Times Diary, where he talked about, like Woodhouse, he'd begun his career as a banker, or working in a bank in Limerick. And then he went off to become a celebrated broadcaster. And he said many years later he went back to the branch he'd once worked in and bumped into someone who was still there, who'd been there in his day. And they said to him, "Oh, do you remember old Fergus?" And he racked his brains, he couldn't really, but said, "Yes, okay, what's he doing now?" I said, "Oh, he's now manager of the branch in Tralee." "That could have been you, Terry." If only you'd stayed around. That was lovely. But on a similar thing with the Woodhouse Bank, he worked for the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank as a young man. And he went to the famous test match at the Oval in 1902, where England chased down, it was over 300, big target, and they were not many down, there were not many runs for 5 wickets down when Woodhouse decided to go back to work. They were like 80 for 5. And he went back to work and he missed Jessup hitting still the fastest ever 100. And then Rhodes and Hurst, as they said, got it in singles for the last wicket and they won. And Woodhouse wrote that I decided then that if working in a proper job meant that I missed cricket matches like that, I'll try my luck as a writer instead.
That could be your motto, couldn't it?
Well, this was because my new life now as a freelancer, as I have been for 6 months, meant that the last day of the Lord's Test this year against India, I got up at 6 a.m, wrote that day's piece, and was at Lord's for 11.
So how come the switch to freelance work?
Well, it was imposed upon me, but I've been at the Times 24 years, and it was I was in the most amicable way made redundant, but told I could carry on working for the paper and given a payoff, and it worked very well.
Well, on that happy note, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Chris, for joining us as our engineer, and a whole lot wittier and knowledgeable than you like to give out. But Patrick, most of all, and for this fantastic pub. Anybody that's in central London, don't go to the pubs down on Oxford Street. Come to the Champion. And thank you for being a champion, Patrick. It was really good.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Good fun.
Cheers.
Do join us again next time when we will be coming to you from what some know as London's country pub, the Freemasons' Arms, up in leafy Hampstead. Our special guest will be one of Britain's beloved theatre legends, Dame Maureen Lipman. You won't want to miss that.